at the time of his arrest. The phone ending in 1697 was recovered from his office, and the phone 2671 was recovered from his person. With regard to the phone ending in 1697, again, we see the same repetitive activity on that phone. It was used to contact numerous sex workers. We also were able to use it to identify an alias, Andrew Roberts, which was a known alias being used by the defendant. We were also able to recover a fraudulent email account, which is sandbagger303@gmail.com. The Sandbagger email address was used similar to the T-Hawk fraudulent account. The T-Hawk was used after Sandbagger, but the Sandbagger account was used once again to search for torture porn and info on the Gilgo case, on the Gilgo investigation, and victims' families. The defendant was particularly interested in the cellular telephone technology being not only used by the FBI, but specifically by the FBI in this case. We also recovered numerous electronic devices from the defendant, including a number of laptops, smartphones, tablets. From that, we learned that the defendant undertook numerous searches for software that could assist in erasing or wiping data from computer and digital devices such as Easy Hide IP and Shredder X. He used those two applications to destroy evidence in this case. We see that he continued to make prostitution-related searches before, during, and after the disappearance and murder of the 4 victims in this case. Notably, on one laptop that was recovered from the house, there was an attempt to shred evidence shortly before the defendant met with and murdered Melissa Barthelemy. Another laptop recovered in the house accessed Amber Costello's Backpage ad on September 1st, 2010 at approximately 9:03 p.m., and that is just hours before the ruse occurred around midnight on September 2nd. So the way the timeline works is on 9:03, that laptop that was recovered from the defendant's house was used to access Amber Costello's Backpage ad. Thereafter, at about 11:33, the burner phone that was used to kill Amber Costello contacted Amber Costello's phone from Massapequa Park, and later at 12:05, that same phone accessed that Amber Costello's phone, but this time the phone had moved from the Massapequa Park area to the West Babylon area where Amber Costello lived, and then back to Massapequa Park. So that is significant evidence as well. I think the biggest change is the DNA evidence, and we've received significant DNA evidence between the time of the first arraignment and this time, which I'll synopsize for you. At this time, we've always spoken, right from the very beginning, we spoke about the 5 hairs of significance that were recovered from 3 of the 4 burial sites of the women. So I'll just go through that. We earlier reported on mitochondrial DNA evidence as to 3 of those hairs. We now have nuclear DNA results for all 5 of the hairs. So I'll go through it. The most significant hair for the purposes of the superseding indictment was the hair that was found on Brainerd Barnes. It was found on the buckle of the belt that secured her lower body, and we also found three hairs at the site of Megan Waterman's burial. We found 2 female hairs and 1 male hair. The male hair was found at the bottom of the burlap that Megan Waterman was wrapped in, and the 2 female hairs were found around the head area, 1 at the top of the burlap and 1 near the tape that was used to restrain Megan Waterman's head. The 5th hair was a female hair that was found in the area of Amber Costello's head. Now, at the time of the original arraignment, we reported on mitochondrial DNA results for 3 of those hairs. With regard to the Megan Waterman hair that was found outside the head area, it was consistent with the genetic profile of both Asa, the mitochondrial DNA profile of both Asa and Victoria Heuermann, and you could exclude the rest of the population to 99.69% of the rest of the population. With regard to the one male hair of significance that was found on the burlap with Megan Waterman, again, that genetic result was consistent with the defendants, and 99.96 of the population could be excluded. And then finally, we had the mitochondrial results with regard to the female hair found at the Costello burial site, and that was consistent with the genetic profiles of both Asa and Victoria Heuermann, and that was to an exclusion of 99.98% of the rest of the population. And if you remember the science of mitochondrial DNA, unlike nuclear DNA, you inherit that solely from your mother. So a mother and a child will have identical mitochondrial DNA profiles. So that is the mitochondrial results. We now have nuclear DNA profiles on all 5 of the questioned hairs, and we use this using the SNP or SNP process. And with regard to the hair found on Maureen Brainerd Barnes on that belt buckle, it was 7.9 trillion times more likely to have come from someone with the identical genetic profile as Asa Ellerup. With regard to the first hair that we got the mitochondrial DNA profile on, the female hair on Megan Waterman, that is 2.374 times 10 to the 48th power as likely to have come from someone matching the genetic profile of Asa Ellerup. And the way that that number is expressed, that's scientific expression, I'm told. So that's basically 2.374, and you add 48 zeros to that. So that's a number so large it doesn't even exist. A name for it doesn't even exist. With regard to the second hair that was found on the tape by the head of Megan Waterman, that was also consistent with a person with the same genetic profile as Asa Ellerup, and that was 2.778 times 10 to the 488th power could exclude the rest of the population. With regard to the male hair, that was we received the mitochondrial DNA profile with regard to that. The nuclear DNA profile on that was 1.48 times 10 to the 169th power as to come from someone sharing the same genetic profile as the defendant. And finally, with regard to Amber Costello, we received the nuclear DNA profile on that, and that was 4.654 times 10 to the 63rd power, as likely to have come from someone with the same genetic profile as his daughter, Victoria Heuermann. So again, the mitochondrial DNA for mother and daughter are going to be the same. Nuclear are going to be separate. Everyone has a separate nuclear DNA profile except for identical twins. We believe these DNA results are significant. Nuclear DNA, as illustrated, is much more discriminate, and the SNP technology that was utilized allows you to get nuclear DNA results from hair. This is, cutting edge. We talked earlier, and the questions were asked with regard to mitochondrial DNA, and is mitochondrial DNA analysis cutting edge? Not really. It's been around since 1996. It's been, used in courts in the United States since about 1996, I think. This SNP process is cutting edge. There are a couple of cases around the country where it's being used, but no finished cases, I believe. But it is scientifically accepted in both the medical and forensic community. It's used in the familial DNA context, so the science is certainly extremely solid. And the good thing about it is it's allowed us to differentiate between those Victoria Heuermann and Asa Ellerup hairs. So that's important. So that's basically the bail letter. I'll open it up to questions, but I just want to end with, we said at the very beginning that we were going to take a comprehensive look at the Gilgo 4 cases. I think we've done that. We've completed that. We used the grand jury process. Now we move to the second phase. The second phase being the prosecution of these 4 cases, as well as continuing to use the grand jury to investigate the other cases, the other bodies, and the other murders, which we think are investigatively significant. And we're certainly going to do that. We're going to use the same methodology. We're going to use the grand jury. And if we come to a result in the time, and when the time is appropriate, we'll have further comment on that. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, regarding the ongoing investigation, how many recovered bodies, other victims, are part of that investigation?
So we're not going to talk about it because we're going to wait until we're able, we'll talk about that in court. But suffice to say that it will be a comprehensive investigation with regard to a number of the bodies.
Is Melissa's family here and would they want to speak?
So I think later the families will be speaking. They have an attorney that they're going to be speaking. And there's going to be I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but yeah, right after this. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So you mentioned that the Secret Service helped you guys out with the devices, downloading the
Yeah.
devices, and finding out about what data had been destroyed through this. Who's helping out with the DNA? Like, why was there a second rollout?
So we use, of course, our excellent Suffolk County Crime Lab has helped us with DNA analysis. We've also utilized 2 outside forensic labs. We haven't disclosed those names just because we want them to do their work. We've disclosed some of those reports, so the defense is aware of the names of those 2. We just haven't disclosed it, and their work continues.
Would Melissa
The grand jury that you were talking about, the investigation of the Gilgo 4 you said has ended. Is this same grand jury now going to be investigating the remainder of the murders?
Yes, the grand jury investigation with regard to Gilgo continues. Yes.
And it's the same
Yes.
grand jury?
Would Melissa Can, because she is right here now, like to say a
Well, I think
word?
there are going to be a couple of words spoken by the members of the family after we're done with ours. Right here.
Ray, can you put into context in layman's terms the DNA and how and why it's significant in the case against Mr. Heuermann?
So I think with regard to the DNA, first you have what we had previously was mitochondrial DNA. There are, and heretofore, mitochondrial DNA was really the only DNA you could use to get DNA, to extract DNA from hair. So that's good about mitochondrial DNA. The numbers are big, but not as big as with nuclear DNA. And because you inherit your genetic profile from your mother, there are a lot of people walking around with identical mitochondrial genetic profiles. And there are not as many base pairs with mitochondrial DNA. I think there's like 12,500, a little bit more base pairs in mitochondrial DNA. There's 3 billion base pairs with nuclear DNA. So nuclear DNA is like sort of the gold standard. If you could get to nuclear DNA, the numbers are going to be much larger. So you want to get to nuclear DNA because other than the numbers are high, and other than identical twins, everyone's DNA profile is different.
Mr. Tierney, of the 10 sets of remains, we've already identified 4 of them being found between the years 2007 and 2010. Can you share with us the years that you believe the other bodies were buried?
No.
DA Tierney, Heuermann's attorney says nuclear DNA came out of nowhere. He, up until now, didn't believe there was any. This is obviously, as you said, more certain as far as the case. How confident are you in the case, and what do you have to say to Dr. Henry?
Sure. I think that nuclear DNA existed in the hair since they were first recovered in 2010, and now the science has caught up. I would say that's a good break for justice, a good break for the investigation. Others might disagree, but the fact that we were able to utilize technology to obtain a nuclear DNA result that we are confident in, and that we are confident in defending in court and making admissible, these are all good things.
What took so long with Maureen Brainerd Barnes? I mean, the other ones we knew in July, the 3. What took so long? Can you speak to her circumstances specifically, especially because she did have hair allegedly on the belt?
So we spoke about the need for investigative secrecy, and as we were working through, and and at the time we thought it was necessary to take the case down, we had completed 3 out of the 4 investigations, with Maureen Brainerd Barnes being the 4th that we did not complete. One of the main reasons why we didn't complete the Maureen Brainerd Barnes investigation is because we knew we had this hair, and we were awaiting, among other things, we were awaiting the result of that nuclear DNA result, which didn't occur at the time of the original takedown. So that was the main reason.
Can you just speak to what this moment means for the task force, for the families, this charge related to the fourth victim of the Gilgo Four?
Well, I think it means a lot to the task force because we know that it provides a small measure of closure for the families, and so we're really happy to provide that for them. We know that there's a lot of hard work to go, that these are allegations, that we need to prove them, but it's nice to be able to let the families know that notwithstanding a lot of the things that have been said, we've always focused the case in the right direction. We always kept the victims in mind, and we were able to obtain a result which we're pleased with.
And the attorney, I just want to clarify, the grand jury which convened for the Gilgo Four, it's the same one, still actively investigating?
Correct.
Okay, and so in addition to, the defense also tried to cast some doubt on some of the DNA evidence, but they also said something to the effect of, just because an individual solicits prostitutes, it doesn't make them a killer. In regards to the new evidence of the burner phones, is there anything you'd like to share with that?
No, I think that's what trials are for, and we look forward to proving these allegations in court.
And can you speak just a little bit to Maureen Brainerd Barnes' specific circumstances? I know we've spoken about all four as a group. What specifically does your office know about the circumstances of her death so far?
Well, I mean, I think that the circumstances of all the four women are very similar. Their backgrounds are similar. Unfortunately, their deaths are very similar, and that's why we focused on the Gilgo Four. But it's what we're willing to disclose about that death is everything that we've talked about now, with regard to the utilization of the four separate burner phones to lure these women out to Massapequa Park, where they were unfortunately murdered.
Mr. Chairman, in the document released today, there was talk about what was in some of the storage units, but not much. Can you talk about what else was found? Because we know that you guys were there for a long time.
Sure. So, basically what is required to us of prosecutors is we have grand jury material, which is secret, and then we have stuff which is publicly disclosed. So we comment on information that's publicly disclosed. There are literally mountains of information that have not been publicly disclosed, but I'm ethically enjoined from speaking about those. So I can't speak about those, so I won't. That's it? Sure.
I'm Attorney Gloria Allred, and today I'm here at the Suffolk County, New York courthouse with 5 of my 6 clients who are relatives or a friend of alleged victims of defendant Rex Heuermann. Mr. Heuermann, as you heard, has been indicted on first and second degree murder charges against Melissa Bartholomew, second degree murder charges of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and first and second degree charges of Megan Waterman. I represent the family members of the alleged victims, Lynn Bartholomew is the mother of victim Melissa Bartholomew. Amanda Funderburg is the sister of Melissa Bartholomew. Nicolette Brainerd Barnes is the daughter of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Melissa Kahn is the sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Sarah Carnes was the friend of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Elizabeth Meserve is the aunt of Megan Waterman and the legal guardian of Megan's daughter. Lynn Bartholomew was not able to be present today, but did try to get here and will be present in the future. They have asked me to represent them as their victims' rights attorney in this case, and I'm honored to support them. 39 years ago, I was contacted by a sex worker named Rhonda DaCosta in California. She performed that kind of work because she needed the money to support herself and her young child. She had met a man named Daniel Zabuski and agreed to provide him with oral sex for $30. But he wanted to rape her and sodomize her, and she alleged that she said no. But he did it anyway. Then he stole money from her. Zabuski was charged with rape, sodomy, and grand theft. Zabuski's criminal trial was held in Pasadena, California, in front of Judge Gilbert Alston. But before the jury could decide the case, the judge dismissed it. He stated to the Pasadena Star-News, quote, "The law was set up to protect good people, you, my wife, my daughters, my granddaughters. It doesn't protect a street-walking prostitute from a contract gone awry. This case shouldn't have been filed. A whore is a whore is a whore," end quote. It was at this point that Rhonda contacted me. I was appalled by the judge's comments. This case wasn't about contract, it was about rape and every woman's right to say no. Judge Alston had in effect declared open season on prostitutes. Rapists and those who beat and murder prostitutes could interpret this to mean that they now had a license to rape, beat, and kill because of the criminal justice system, which would not be there to protect prostitutes or give them access to justice. The judge seemed to be telling rapists that if they committed crimes of sexual violence against sex workers, that the law would protect the abuser by denying the victims access to the courts. Evidently, at that time, sex workers were not entitled to protection of the law from acts of rape and sodomy. I mention this case today because the suggestion from Judge Alston seemed to be that sex workers are not good people. That notion is dangerous to women's lives, whether or not they are sex workers. The courthouse door should never be shut to any woman who is victimized by gender violence. No man has a license to hurt, kill, or do anything else to a woman without her consent. And as I predicted 39 years ago, after the judge made his comments, Zabuski went on to rape, beat, and assault a number of other women. Finally, he was sentenced to a term of 80 years in prison in other cases after Rhonda. I was successful in filing a civil case against Zabuski for Rhonda over the objections of Zabuski's attorney, and a different judge allowed me to continue litigating the case for Rhonda. However, sadly, Rhonda passed away, and therefore we never went to a civil trial. The point of what happened to Rhonda is that failing to afford sex workers access to justice sends a message to men who victimize them that the victimizers may never face consequences for their wrongful and criminal acts. This is 2024. Will there be justice for women who just needed some money to help support their children or themselves? It is long overdue to provide justice for vulnerable women who are missing and murdered. It will be for the jury to decide if this defendant will be found guilty of the murder of Maureen, may she rest in peace, and the murder of other women for whom the defendant has been indicted. We look forward to a fair trial for the defendant and justice for Maureen. Next, I would like to introduce Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, who is the daughter of Maureen, and Nikki, as we call her, has never done an interview, and she will make a statement today. And she's very brave because this is heartbreaking for her. Nikki.
First, I'd like to thank law enforcement who have been dedicated to working on this case. I very much appreciate your efforts on behalf of these vulnerable victims. I'm here to speak for my mom, Maureen. I was only 7 years old when my mother was murdered. Her loss drastically changed the trajectory of my life. There are countless times I needed her and she was not there. I remember she read to me every night, and now I can no longer remember the sound of her voice. I wish she was here today, but she was taken from us. For years, it looked like there might not be charges filed against any suspect for the murder of my mother. While the loss of my mom has been extremely painful for me, the indictment by the grand jury has brought hope for justice for my mom and my family. I owe so much to my mom, and I know that she would want me to speak out for her in this process and let everyone know who she really was. Even though it was difficult for me, I'm doing this because I want her to be remembered as the loving mother that she was. Thank you.
Okay. The next speaker will be Melissa Kahn, and she is the sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Would you like to identify the person standing next to you?
This is my husband, Christopher Can. Hello, my name is Melissa Can, and I am the proud sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. I would first like to thank the collective efforts of the Suffolk County DA's office, New York State Police, Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, the Gilgo Beach Task Force detectives, and the past detectives on this case. 13 years ago, Maureen was found murdered after she went missing for 3.5 years. Throughout these years, I had continued to hold on to hope that one day there would be justice for Maureen, and that whoever took Maureen's life would be held accountable. Today is another important chapter in the long pursuit of justice for Maureen. It has been 16 years since the last time I saw my sister, 16 years since I heard her voice, because 16 years ago, she was silenced. Losing Maureen has become a wound that never truly heals. It remains a part of me. Maureen was a mother of 2 amazing children, and they will forever be without their mother. Sorry. Maureen was my older sister who was always there for me when I needed her. Maureen was inspired to be a writer, and she loved reading books. She was only 25 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. Maureen would never get the chance to show the world how talented she was. My family will never get the chance to know who Maureen would be today, because her life was tragically taken. Throughout these 13 years, my family has painstakingly endured Maureen being judged and marginalized. Maureen was more than how she has been portrayed. She was first and foremost a loving mother, a caring sister, and a giving friend. With the loss of Maureen came unimaginable pain and panic. My life shattered with the confirmation of Maureen's death. Due to the experience of my sister going missing and being found murdered, I would suffer from PTSD. I would overthink every situation I deemed a threat because the worst possible thing in my life has happened. I became guarded. I overprotected the ones I loved around me because I knew firsthand that evil exists in this world. I want to ask everyone to please remember the victims: Maureen, Megan, Melissa, and Amber. I hope that everyone will also remember the other victims from whom charges has not been filed
against any suspect. These victims had families. They were human beings with aspirations and hope for a better future for themselves. They have families who love and miss them. Maureen, Melissa, Megan, and Amber are no longer here to speak for themselves, and I am glad the family members of other victims are continuing to speak out for their loved ones, and I support them because they know their loved ones best, and they miss them more than anyone will ever know. Thank you.
Melissa and Nikki are not going to be taking questions today. However, if you have a few questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them. If you would like a copy of their statements and mine, I have a few copies here, but you can also email me, and most of you have my email. One last thing before I take a few questions. We have a photo. I could email it to you in color, but I do have it here in black and white. It shows Maureen with Nikki, when Nikki was a child. Why don't you step forward? There. Thank you. And you have permission to use the photo. Would you like to come forward? Okay, this is the photo. Thank you. Yes, I couldn't hear you.
Spelling of their first names, just so we have it.
Of,
The sister and daughter.
of the picture?
No, the sister and the daughter.
Oh, the sister,
Spelling
okay.
their names.
Yeah, sister is Melissa Kahn, Melissa. Kahn is Cann. And then the daughter of Maureen is Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, Nicolette, Brainerd, Brainard, hyphen Barnes, Barnes. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Could you tell us their ages?
Oh, the ages of,
Of the
okay, if they decide to disclose it.
I was 7 years old when my mom went missing.
Yes, you would like to know your age now.
Oh, and now I'm 24.
30,
30,
38.
39.
No, really, which one?
39.
Okay, 39, and that's for real. Okay, okay.
Was today's indictment more pain or relief to the client?
I think that their goal has always been justice for Maureen, and that's what's most important, and also learning the truth about what really happened to Maureen. And so we'll find that out as we go. I'll be interested in hearing the defenses, and we'll see what happens. But they do want truth, they want justice, even though it is painful to know some of these horrifying details of, Maureen's last day on earth. Even though it is so difficult to see some photos that no one would ever want to see of their loved ones, but it's necessary because from the prosecution's point of view, and I don't speak for them, they think it's important evidence that supports the charges and the allegations that they're making in this case. So this is real life. This is an important case. Those photos needed to be viewed by the grand jury, and the victims understand that. What happened here cannot be sugar-coated. It's real. And again, we'll see what the defense has to say.
Gloria, what does justice look like for these family members?
I think justice looks like what the jury decides in this case based on the evidence and beyond a reasonable doubt.
And you mentioned closure for some of these family members.
I don't think I mentioned closure, but I did hear the
Yes, so.
the district attorney Tierney mentioned closure.
Exactly. The district attorney did mention some closure regarding the indictment. What does closure then look like for
Oh.
family members?
I think this is a process, and I'll leave it to them to comment on what that looks like when we reach the end of the process.
The suspect was charged with the murders of 3 other women last summer. For your clients, what have the past several months been like, waiting, presumably hoping for a charge for Maureen, past several months, let alone years?
I think you could see the continuing heartbreaking pain that Melissa, has experienced every day since her sister went missing. All of these many years. So in other words, since 2007. They had confidence that there would be a thorough investigation and hoped that ultimately that Maureen would be a victim who was not shut out of this case for lack of evidence, but that there would be sufficient evidence to proceed. And I think that all the law enforcement agencies were very careful, and they took the time needed. Yes, of course, it's always difficult for victims' family members, who I also call victims, to have to wait patiently and not to know much of what's going on because they can't be told. But they did it, and we're here today. Yeah, okay, so thank you again for coming.